Hello and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Binu Sandhu. Let's take a look at the stories for the day. In the 1976 classic Manthan, veteran playwright and actor Girish Karnad brought alive the character of Verghese Kurian. Kurian, a Kerala-born engineer, orchestrated the White Revolution from Gujarat. 47 years after Manthan, a different kind of churning is happening in Girish Karnad's home state, Karnataka. Amul's reported entry into Karnataka has taken a political turn. The country's largest cooperative is being pitted against homegrown milk brand Nandini amid a rising pitch for upcoming state election. So why is Amul facing this backlash in the southern state? Tushar Verma brings the answer.
On the 5th of April, Amul announced its plan to enter India's IT capital, the southern city of Bengaluru. While putting out the tweet, India's largest milk brand may have had no inkling about what it was in for. The plan announced in the run-up to elections in Karnataka soon took a political turn. Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation, or GCMMF, which owns the Amul milk brand, found itself pitted against Karnataka Cooperative Milk Producers Federation, or KMF, which sells milk under the Nandini brand. The Congress and Janata Dal Secular raised the issue of regional pride and called for the boycott of Amul. The ruling BJP, on its part, has been trying to counter the narrative with its nationalist agenda. It also sought to quell the rumour that Nandini will merge with Amul. In December last year, Union Home and Cooperation Minister Amit Shah had called for cooperation between KMF and Amul, but the opposition parties interpreted it as a plan to merge the two entities. Elections will be held in the state on 10th May. While most politicians tend to see things in black and white, there are shades of grey too. Both the leading cooperatives have had a history of cooperation and competition. They once came face to face while bidding to operate the Delhi milk scheme. And on the other hand, Nandini has been providing milk to Amul for its ice cream. Amul's interim managing director Jayen Mehta recently told Business Standard that it has never been Amul versus Nandini. He also clarified that Amul products would only be sold in Bengaluru via e-commerce platforms and not through general trade. About 70% of the dairy market in Karnataka is dominated by Nandini, and its milk and curd prices are much lower than that of Amul. So exactly why is Amul facing backlash in Karnataka?
Nandini, over the decades, since its founding in the mid-70s, has become a brand that people in Karnataka are attached to and feel proud about as a local brand that has done very well, that serves everybody. So there is that sense of concern that the brand might get hurt by a new entrant that may have unfair advantages. The second thing, of course, is the fear that there may be a larger design on the part of the central government, which now has a new Ministry of Cooperation, to merge these cooperatives.
While Amul is the largest dairy cooperative in India with a country-wide presence, it is certainly not the only dairy cooperative. Kerala has Milma, Tamil Nadu has Avin, Andhra Pradesh has Vijaya, and so on. Almost every state has its own milk cooperative, but Amul, with its pan-Indian presence, overshadows most of them. So what does the ongoing controversy tell us about the competition between milk cooperatives in India?
From the public's point of view, especially the consuming public's point of view, the consumer doesn't really care, whether it's a private enterprise or it's a cooperative, national or statewide. But they do have their preferences for brands. So Amul is a much loved brand in most parts of India. Nandini is a much loved brand in the markets that Nandini operates in. So I think what we're talking about is a certain amount of fondness that exists for one brand, and therefore, You see it as your own, and so I think it's just that.
Nandini has a stronghold in the Karnataka dairy market, especially in Bengaluru, and supplies 70% of the city's milk requirements. Moreover, the price difference between Amul and Nandini will be wide. Amul milk and curd are priced 20 to 40% higher than KMF's Nandini. While Nandini sells toned milk at Rs 39 per litre, Amul sells it for Rs 54. So will Amul be able to grow as a brand in Karnataka?
As of now, Amul milk costs more than Nandini, and one would imagine that people will want to prefer Nandini over Amul. But you never know if that's going to stay that. We know how the Times of India, got the share of the Indian news market. It played the pricing game. So I don't know. It's difficult to say from this point in time. But yeah, Amul is a well-recognized brand. But I think this local opposition now, for all of a sudden, Amul is appearing like this, anti-Kannada brand. It was never that all these years. And this may have some effect on consumer choices.
Amul has been selling pouch milk and fresh products in Hubballi and Belgaum since 2015. The fact that Amul has been operating in Karnataka for over 7 years now has been overlooked by those stirring the pot. Experts believe this controversy is purely political, and both brands can coexist in a healthy, competitive environment.
From Karnataka's war over milk, let us turn our attention to dating apps. Dating apps today cut across all identities, and their reach is no longer limited to Tier 1 cities. With internet's penetration increasing, people in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities are also using these apps to find friends and partners. Homegrown dating apps, which also offer content in regional languages, are helping them. But what are the strategies that Indian dating apps are using to expand their network? Tariq Ahmed finds out.
Dating apps have transformed the way people approach and perceive relationships worldwide. Starting from the US and Europe, the phenomena has reached the shores of developing countries where the sensibilities around dating and relationships used to be different from their Western counterparts. A data analytics study from data.ai reveals that consumer spending and the time spent on dating apps have been increasing every year since 2019. In 2022, people from all over the world spent an average $5.9 per user and 10 billion human hours on dating apps. The same report points that India is the fifth fastest growing dating app market in the world. In 2022, Indians spent around $9.9 million in dating apps. A 2021 report reveals that Tinder had 40 million users in India, while another international dating app, Bumble, had an average of 13,500 daily downloads in 2022. Other dating apps like Hinge and OkCupid also enjoy a sizable number of users in the country. However, most of these international apps have been an urban phenomena in India, only brushing the edges of its Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Part of the reason for this alienation is how relationships are perceived in most parts of India, coupled with the language barrier. Nevertheless, love knows no barriers.
Tinder and Bumble, as I said, they are global players, and their product will be aligned to something which suits a very global audience, if you see that way. If you really want to understand what a tier 2 user wants, he wants to make friends. He's not looking to date per se. If the date comes by, well and good for them. But they never had an interaction with the opposite gender till now. So they are coming online to have an interaction or say hi to someone of the opposite gender first. So being online and being able to interact with them is the first big thing for them instead of going on a date. So solving that basic problem is what we are trying to do.
Today, Indian apps like Quack, Isle and Truly Madly dominate the category in India's non-metros. Quack, launched in 2010, has 23 million users now. According to founder Ravi Mittal, in the past 2 years alone, 10 million people joined the platform. It's now witnessing 1 million new joiners every 3 months. The subscription-based revenue model of Cognite converts 5 to 7% of its users into subscribers. So, which part of India are the users coming from?
In terms of demography, what we have seen is post-pandemic. I think I would call it pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. Pre-pandemic, a lot of people used to come from metros. Almost 60 to 70% of the signups were coming from places like Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Kolkata. But post-pandemic, we are seeing almost 70% of users are coming from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities on our app. So these are people from small towns and villages also, very remote villages as well, which is very astonishing for us to see that the penetration of dating is going into very small places. Like even from Northeast, we get a lot of people. We get a lot of people from Jammu and even from the heartlands of Uttar Pradesh. So that is one observation what we have seen.
Another Indian dating app, Truly Madly, offers features like personality and astrological compatibility to its subscribers. Currently, Truly Madly has 12.5 million registered users in India, with 43% of users from Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities. The platform emphasizes on relationships that lead to marriage and focuses on certain features to match the Indian context.
Most of the current dating apps which were available on the net, they were made for the West and they were just being marketed here in India, right? We wanted to create a solution which caters to Indian set of problems and Indian set of users. So for example, we created our whole compatibility assessment tool with some of top psychologists and psychometricians of India, catering to the Indian context of a perfect match.
These platforms allow users to communicate in regional languages. India dating app Isle has introduced two vernacular apps, Arike and Anbe, for Malayalam and Tamil speaking users respectively. It reported crossing 10 million user milestone last year, with a significant number of users outside the metro cities. Unlike the US-based apps, the Indian platforms take a different approach when it comes to built-in features and the idea of relationships itself. Most of these Indian dating apps have positioned themselves between a casual dating site and a traditional matrimonial site to win the hearts of users in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities.
Moving on to markets, private lender HDFC Bank is set to start the banking sector's Q4 earnings this Saturday, and is expect the banking pact to drive India Inc.'s earnings growth for 3 quarters in a row. In our next report, Nikita Vasisht explores what the numbers may look like and the stocks that should be on investors' radar.
Driven by credit offtake, healthy margins, and resolutions of few stressed assets, the banking and financial services sector is expected to lead India Inc.'s earnings growth for a third straight quarter. A consensus Bloomberg estimate for 17 listed banks pegs net profit growth at around 44% on a year-on-year basis and at 8% on a sequential basis for the January to March quarter. Within the lot, the net profit of private banks may rise 22% YOY, while that of public sector banks may jump 85%.
For banks, net interest margins expand initially when the rate hike cycle starts, but then they tend to flatten out, and that's what we'll see in Q4. Also, FY23, we saw good credit growth, around 17%, but with higher rates, we could actually see the credit growth slowing down, especially on the SME and the retail side. However, in terms of net profit and quality of assets, Q4 could be among the best quarter for the banks. But the best of estimates is already priced in, and I don't see any surprises in the earnings.
While analysts caution that the pace of earnings acceleration may slow down in Q4 due to softness in NIMs and elevated OPEX, they expect PSU banks to see better margin performance due to a higher share in MCLR-linked loans in their book and slow pass-through thus far. Against this backdrop, are there any bank stocks that are worth your money?
Typically, I think private banks, some of the private banks are still available and still attractive. For example, ICICI and Axis. But if investors want to take some more risk, of course, PSU banks also look attractive at this point in time.
Narendra Solanki of Anand Rathi too believes PSU banks have more upside than private players due to cheaper valuation.
From valuation basis, some PSBs still trade at significant discount than their private peers, and if performance continues to improve of these public sector banks, we could see some narrowing of the valuation gap.
Overall, analysts are expecting up to 300 basis point contraction in loan growth in FY24 versus FY23. Moreover, with deposit growth still lagging and liquidity running into deficit, management commentary on deposit acceleration and the impact of margins will be key monitorable during Q4 results. Markets are shut today on account of Ambedkar Jayanti. HDFC Bank will report its Q4 result tomorrow. Bloomberg estimate pegs the bank's net profit at 12,116 crore rupees, up 20.5% YOY. NII meanwhile is projected at 32,450 crore rupees.
From Dalal Street, let us shift our focus to political galleries. Opposition Congress has alleged that the government is buying a new spyware called Cognite, which is billed as an alternative to Pegasus. They say this is being done to snoop on opposition leaders and journalists. But what is this software? Tushar Verma explains.
A market leader in investigative analytics that empowers governments and enterprises with actionable intelligence for a safer world. This is the tagline of Cognite, the software at the center of political controversy in India. The Indian National Congress alleges that the BJP-led union government is trying to buy the technology to spy on opposition, journalists, judiciary, and even its own ministers. This particular type of software is known as spyware. Spyware, as the name suggests, is a software application used for advanced spying on the target. Today, spywares are so well designed that it is nearly impossible for regular users to be aware of such applications spying on their computers and mobile devices. Usually, these spywares are installed through various phishing techniques. Governments are almost routinely accused of using spyware to keep an eye on the opposition, activists, NGOs, and the media. Cognite is one such spyware. It is the product of a company based in Israel that goes by the same name. And this is not the first time spyware is making news in the corridors of Indian government. Spyware Pegasus was in news last year in India. The New York Times had reported that India had bought the spyware as part of a larger deal with Israel, worth a massive $2 billion. Cognite was part of a Verint System, a business intelligence software company based in the USA. Later, the company spun off its cyber and intelligence division in 2021. This division came to be known as Cognite and was registered in Israel. Verint was also accused by Amnesty International for supplying spyware to the government of South Sudan. In December 2021, Cognite found its mention by Facebook. The Meta-owned social media platform had called out a dozen private surveillance companies for hacking or other abuses. It suspended several accounts linked to these spywares, including Cognite. It is not the first time that the Congress party came with allegations of spying and surveillance against the union government. While governments around the world often use advanced spyware to intercept calls and track communications on the internet for national security, the availability of such software points to the larger issue of digital privacy, surveillance, and potential misuse of technology by authorities.
I will achieve, I will fly high. I am the SBI. I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
Reuters recently reported that Cognite Software had won a bid to sell intercept spyware to a Myanmar government-backed telecommunication firm before the country's military coup. That's all for today. For more news and analysis, please log into our website business-standard.com. Thank you for watching.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.